Hello.
Hey, hello, Jessica. How are you?
I am surviving. I've been very
Surviving.
sick this month, so this is like
Oh,
I'm back in the limelight. Here we are, but I'm
oh,
glad to be here with you. Welcome to Niche
yeah.
Conversations.
Thank you for the
Um,
invitation.
yes. I'm Jessica DeWitt, one of the editors here at the network in Canadian History and Environment. And today I am joined by Yohad Zacarias. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yes. Hi, hello, everyone. My name is Jessica. My name is Yohad Zacarias, and I'm currently PhD candidate at a University of Texas at Austin.
Mhm.
And I'm in Santiago de Chile doing research actually, because I'm preparing my dissertation project about rural electrification in southern Chile.
Wonderful. And we're going to be talking about that today. In January, you published with us as well as the Urban History Association as part of our Urban and Environmental Dialogue series. You published Beyond Progress, Substations, Informality, and Environmental Changes, and that's what we're going to be chatting about today. And so I thought I'd start off by talking about like the sources that you use in this post, and you build your argument around the visual archive of the Chilean Electric Company. And I wondered if you could just like describe this archive and the photographic sources in it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for your question. I have my note right here, so if I'm
Yeah.
looking at them, it
No
is
worries.
because I don't want to miss anything. So just saying. Well, it is a huge collection of image, nearly 20,000 photos actually. In fact, I had a hard time choosing which photos to feature on the blog because there was so many related to the topic I want to highlight. The company that owns the image today, SNL, but they loaned this archive to the National Library of Chile, which digitalized in 2018 and create a series of albums with it. So, for example, we currently have 50 albums. The good thing is that it is an open access public archive, so that is great. And returning to your question, you might wonder what kind of photos this album holds. There are photos showing technological, urban, and also environmental development in Santiago, Chile capital, from the late 19th century to the mid 20th century. This collection includes the installation of electric streetcar, the formation of worker association, the construction of city electric grid, and the development of hydro engineer projects also, such as a small power plant near the city. But for me, what is important is that it also highlight people daily interaction with technology in the city. So, for example, we have, of course, business people and engineer, but we also children watching
Yeah.
electrical work on the street, people gossiping about electric streetcar, and other people observing this new technical artifact in the city. So I want to highlight two aspects of the archive. First, as I already mentioned it, we have 50 albums contain information,
Mhm.
and but at least 30 detail about them. 30 of them include detail about substations. So that was interest to me because and keep my attention because even substation have this like a power image about electricity in a place, like a cultural idea what technology means in a place, like a music poster, book covers, like
Yeah.
rock music covers also. um, Few people wrote about substations. So and I think maybe, but this is a maybe, is relate to the fact that the most research in Latin America is currently focused on large scale technology projects, such as dams, for example.
Yeah.
And the second point that I want to emphasize is that even when this archive was used in the past, it served more like a secondary source. in historiography. So what I mean is that even when a historian work with primary source, of course, but text, the visual archive always support the information that they contain, you know. So in my writing, I did the opposite. The image took the cover stage and then the center stage. And then I used the text primary source and the second bibliography. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and you share some of the images in the post, and yeah, it was just like it seemed like a really like the kind of like trove of info that historians dream of. It just seemed like really, really cool. So that came across just in your short article with us. So I wanted to cover that first and just, you know, acknowledge how cool this archive is that you're working with. So to get into how you're, you know, analyzing this material, the story you present is largely about an urban periphery. So I wondered if you could talk about what this archive, this photographic archive, and other sources tell us about the difference between, you know, peripheral and center city development, particularly in Santiago in the 1920s.
Yeah, no, that is a really good question, and I appreciate you asking. First of all, I want to point out that this didn't just happen in Santiago, but also in several major cities across Latin America, including Buenos Aires, Lima, Montevideo, and Rio de Janeiro. No, so in Santiago, many technological advancements, like the introduction of electrification for transportation and street lighting, were concentrated in the downtown area. Because at that time, the local elite and politicians lived there. Later, this will change, and the elite moved to the eastern part of the city. Additionally, downtown Santiago was the administrative and also the commercial hub. So electric companies focus their development there. So charging the elite before expanding to other industry, such as other sectors. However, and this is the big however, at the same time, this technological advancement also extended to the urban periphery and even expanded the city itself, as seen with the electric tram. As explained in the post, the development of substation was important not only because they were physically located on the city periphery, but also because residents there interact with electricity in their daily life. So, however, in a different way from those living in the city center. So people on the periphery live near electrical equipment, even though they didn't have access to electricity in their home or access to the power. So today, for example, in field like history of technology or environmental history, this can be seen and also studied very close to energy injustice. No, the same thing. Yeah, the same thing happened with other technologies, just as the tram. So people living on the periphery saw, but also experienced the physical connection with to electrical materials, but did not have access to that energy.
Yeah.
So building on this, my piece examining how even in photos taken by the company to document very different technological progress or other kind of development, we can see that the process of adopting new technology differ and was connected to the informality of home in the periphery of Santiago. So, for example, in photos showing where substation were projected and then built, we see informal housing situated alongside this technology development. So I think ultimately what I wrote was like more like an invitation to shift the focus to the periphery, but also including technological and environmental change with it. And I raised my hand because my master thesis was about the downtown Santiago and the
Yes.
expansion of the tram system. So this text, this piece, also for me was like an opportunity to revisit my early work, but also view from a different part of the city.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, thinking of it kind of in terms of like Canadian history, it makes me think of there's a lot of work that looks at like the north or rural areas as the hinterland, right? That then serves the urban centers. But this is kind of complicating that and thinking about, the urban centers are not a single entity in them of themselves, right? They have these different layers to them, um, and different experiences. And I really like pointing out that these people were surrounded by this technology, but not benefiting from it is just like such an important thing to think about. Yeah, I appreciated it a lot. Um, so that kind of rolls into the last thing I wanted to talk about a bit more in that that electricity is, like when we think about the history of electricity, we love to think about progress and modernity. Um, but what does this archive and what you found, how does that challenge or complicate this assumption of progress?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you again for your question and your comment also. I think we have a lot of information about the center, but we need a different perspective for different areas. As I mentioned early, my master thesis focused on the role of electric companies, the government, municipality, and engineers, and how they link modernity and progress to electricity in downtown. In Santiago, downtown Santiago. So, however, when I wrote the post, I keep that in mind that although we have an excellent studies on the history of technology and environmental history in Latin American cities, it is important to open the discussion to about the connection between progress and electricity. So I want to highlight three aspects that maybe this can help to into that direction of that discussion. And so first is for the analysis of urban and landscape studies. For example, moving from the city center to the urban periphery, but also the comment that you already mentioned about rural regions or in our countries, no? Which I'm currently exploring in Chile, because technological process in these areas outside the city center follow different path. So making the concept of progress, but also technology more complex. For example, when people in rural areas or in the urban periphery started creating informal ways to access electricity, the surrounding space also changed. So those practice that maybe we call informal ways were also technological process. So in this context, I think shifting the focus away from the center is also um, like an invitation to frame a work within environmental and technological studies, but also to show how technology has actually changed urban and rural areas, especially in Latin America, but also in other part of the world. That is why I believe moving beyond the direct association of electricity and progress opens the discussion to other areas beyond the city center. That's maybe the first point. And the second point is, I think is an opportunity to open the discussion to a wider range of actors. Chief focus from the state, companies, and engineers to the city residents. For example, residents in Latin America began forming electric cooperatives to gain access to electricity in their homes and communities. So that is when the idea of progress also becomes more complex, when you open all those discussion to a different actors. And I think the third point, and it's also connect with the first and the second one, is infrastructure, the infrastructure concept, because I believe we have plenty information about large scale technological infrastructure, like dams, for example. We have a lot of information,
Yeah.
but what is missing is how we connect that information with people in their daily life. So that is why I find it interesting to shift the focus from the history of large scale technology to a smaller scale technology element, and also the interaction with people, such as a substation, for example, because it also challenges the assumption that everyone has access to electricity in the same way, when the process was quite different and involved a lot of energy injustice from the beginning, from the start.
Yeah, I appreciate all of these points that you're making, and it's making me also think of like I feel like the AI, what do you want to call it? Revolution, boom, whatever you want to call AI right now, is kind of bringing a lot of these ideas into like public discourse for the first time in a while. Like this idea of like technology equals progress. Well, does it? Or this idea like AI data centers are being talked about a lot, and like the impacts that they have on local environments and stuff. And that's like a hyper like present day example. And then I'm just like, as you're talking, like all of these ideas are can also be talked about in like relation to the past. And I think that your article really brings that to the forefront, like who benefits from these technologies, where is the infrastructure, you know, like all of these complicating connecting factors. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
Yeah, and also that sometimes we naturalize the connection with technology. I mean, in our daily life, for example, for some people, it's normal to use the chat with artificial intelligence every day.
Yeah.
But that is not normal if we compare some years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that is the same with the electricity. Sometimes we forget that people in rural area doesn't have any electricity,
Yeah. Still.
or they create material but have electricity.
Yeah.
So that is why I think is the connection between electricity and progress need to be redefined or made more complex that in
Yeah.
the 90s or the 2000s,
Yeah.
because also our conception of technology is changing also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Lots to think about. This is a great chat. Thank you so much for joining me, Yohad, um, and sharing your work with our series. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invitation and all the work that you are be doing in the NiCHE. So I'm very happy. I think I want to say that it's very important to have the visibility of cities, for example, like
Yeah.
Chile, about Latin America. So I
Yeah.
think these spaces are really great to have this connection with Canada. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that I could do that. And yeah, I'm always seeking, trying to push our ideas of geography and like and disciplinary boundaries as well. Like we
Yeah.
all have so much to learn from each other, and to keep us siloed apart is not helpful. So I'm always trying to push at that. So
Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks for joining me today. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.